concrete walls. There's a place for us where we could go, where we could be alone. Between city lights, we don't have to hide. I wanna go, do you wanna follow? There's something in the air, I can't explain it, but it's there. Ain't nobody gonna find us in our secret love affair. I don't wanna have to hide no more, it shouldn't be unfair. I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? I can't understand why we can't hold hands, but they don't know what we have is real love. Aren't you sick and tired of having to hide? I know a place, do you wanna follow? There's something in the air, I can't explain it, but it's there. Ain't nobody gonna find us in our secret love affair. I don't wanna have to hide no more, it shouldn't be unfair. I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow?
What's up, guys? I'm Joshua Bardwell. Let's finish watching this edit, okay? Yeah, I thought the edit was pretty close to the same length as that song. I tried to time it just right. I guess I didn't quite didn't quite get it. Well, anyway, yeah, I thought I'd start you guys off with a little bit of flying this week. I'm kind of proud of this. Pushed myself a little bit, try to get some good flying. Yeah, it's still right here at my house, but what can you do? This is the Stinger Swarm frame with the Zing 2208 motors, and yeah, I'm pretty happy with it. It's pretty good. Anyway, there you go. Well, hang on. Well, no, yeah, no. Boom. Here I am. Thank you, Alex. Good transition. Welcome to the live stream, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. I already see questions. See, I just got distracted from my own intro because I was watching questions come in the chat. That's what we do here. That's what I do here. I answer questions in the chat. And you know what? That's what we do here, because I see you guys mostly when I'm live streaming. I'm too busy doing my thing, but I see you guys answering questions in the chat. When I watch the replay of the chat, the replay of the live stream, for whatever reason, there's so many questions coming in, and you guys in the chat are answering them. I'm so pleased to sort of collect a community of helpful people around me. And I'm just going to keep doing my part. Welcome, everybody, to the live stream. Here's how it works if you're new here. And by the way, if you're new here, hello, welcome. Say hi in the chat. I'll shout you out if this is your first live stream. If you're watching a replay of the live stream, then every week I get somebody who posts a comment underneath the replay, and it's like, my first live stream. I'm like, no, it's not. Sorry. What's up, Edgardo, German, Jerry Squire? How is it going? How's it going, guys? Welcome to the live stream. First time. What up, everybody? Thank you, TCFPV. Says my flying is getting really good. Thank you. I mean, I keep trying to get better, and I keep feeling like other people are better than me. But I guess you just got to keep looking up and trying to get there, right? There you go. Here's the deal. Here's what we're doing here. Let me just show you guys. This is my screen. This is what I'm looking at on my screen. These are your questions. These are your chats. Top chat. Why not live chat? No, top chat. We'll stick to top chat. These are your questions. Your questions will come in. I will answer as many of them as I can. But as you can see, hello, Bumblebold FPV. Ken Simmons, you're not new. Ken, you've been here before. I know you, Ken. Joe Graves FPV. Perfect Flight from Germany. Mike Alexa, you're not new. You guys. A Fatal Paper Cut. That is not a good username. Fatal Paper Cut. Efrain Morales III. First time here. There you go, Jerry Squire. Okay, enough of the shout-outs. Thomas Bird Jr. Anyone else having problems with the R9? Thomas Bird Jr., you are not alone, my friend. I'll finish my intro in a second, but that question is too good to pass up. There's this whole, like, where there's smoke, is there fire question, right? What I mean by that is every so often I get reports of someone having trouble with a piece of hardware, and I try not to ever overreact to that. It's usually just one guy who's had a problem, but there comes a point where you get so many reports of people having problems that you go, okay, something's going on here. And I'm sorry to say that FrSky R9 has crossed that line for me recently. The R9mm receiver specifically, this started a few weeks ago with people reporting to me that they were having their R9mm lose bind for no apparent reason and then just stop working. I don't have the data to give you it's, these and how many % of people is it. But I got to tell you, if you've had dead FrSky R9mm receivers, you are not alone, and it's probably not you. Okay, anyway. Okay, so let me just get back to the thing. So here's where you ask your questions. The questions go by fast and furious, and I can't answer all of them. So if you want to make sure that your question gets called out, hit the $ right here, and it'll throw a couple bucks at me. It'll get pulled out into the super chats. I do my best to answer every single one of the super chats. If you throw me a couple bucks, it's the least I could do. But I also do my best to answer as many of the regular chats. I always try and remember the little people. No, I'm joking. And over here on the left, this is my Discord server. And in my Discord, hello, patrons in the Discord server. Oh, Mike Alexa is in both the chat and the Discord. Double dipping. So this is my Discord server. It's just a chat server, There's not anything really special about it. But if you do want to join the Discord server, one of the advantages is that I also monitor the Discord server. And since everybody in the Discord server is a patron of mine, I go, just like the super chats, I go out of my way to, Mike Alexis, we're special. I don't know about that, but I do go out of my way to, I try to help everybody regardless. That's always been my MO, is help everybody without asking, hey, what are you going to do for me? Just help everybody. And then if enough people feel thankful and generous that I'm able to support myself. But if you are one of the people who throws a couple bucks at me, at least I can do is answer your question. And people always ask in the chat, oh, you have a Discord server. How do I get to join your Discord server? And the answer is join my Patreon down in the video description. Okay, enough with all that stuff. Let's answer some questions. Oh, and of course, the most important question that everyone will ask is, what am I drinking? Sierra Nevada Pale Ale, a fine handcrafted ale from Sierra Nevada Brewing Company. They do not sponsor my live stream, but I certainly sponsor their beer. Am I right? Oh. Okay. Eric FPV wants to know, can you mod the jumper G12 the same as the T16? I liked your mod. Eric FPV, I don't see why not. Basically, all you're doing is you're tricking the module or the radio into thinking that you've unplugged the module. It's not, that's all you're doing. However, I will say I really hesitated to release that video because I wasn't sure that I had done the mod exactly right, but I didn't know who to ask. And there's the surest way to get correct information on the internet is to publicly release wrong information. And sure enough, there are several people who've commented in the thread about things I could have done differently. So I will be doing a follow-up to that video. Basically, I think that my original plan of switching the signal and the power wire would have been the right thing to do, and not switch the ground wire. And that may be the problem that I'm running into, why the Crossfire module isn't working. So I think it will work on the T12, but you should wait until I do the follow-up, because what I did on the T16 may not be exactly right. There's one more thing to say, and that is, at the end of my T16 internal module modification video, I said, I hope that Jumper releases a thing that makes this all obsolete, because this is really a kludge. And sure enough, in the comments, the problem is that OpenTX does not support an internal multi-protocol module. It just doesn't have the code to do it. So the multi-protocol module must always be plugged into the JR module bay. Well, it turns out there's a nightly build of OpenTX that can actually do that. It can actually have an internal. So soon the right way to do that mod will be to wire the multi-protocol module up to the internal pins, and then you'll actually be able to it'll be fully functional. And shortly after that, probably Jumper will release a version doing their own thing, and we won't have to mod the radio anymore. But there you go. There you go. What's a good stack for a 3-inch build? Asks a Fatal Paper Cut. I'll tell you what. I am working with Mr. Aaron Ciotti. Some of you have met him on some of my other live streams. And he and he's helping me spec my 3-inch build. I'm going to be doing an Acrobat build. I'm just waiting on the motors right now. And the stack that we're using right now is the iFlight. Hello. Where's it? There it is. The iFlight Suck Mini F4 Twin G. This is an exciting stack. I like the fact that it has DSC, flight controller, and DTX all in one. That kind of integration is very helpful on a micro where the soldering can be so fiddly. The other thing I like about it is that it has, I think it's a Twin G, which means it has twin gyros with sensor fusion. One of the biggest challenges you run into with micros is the vibrations and tuning can be really tricky, and I'm hoping that the additional filtering of the sensor fusion twin gyro functionality is going to help the quad fly the best. We're just waiting right now on the motors. iFlight is going to be releasing some 1506 motors. Was the music going? What happened? I don't know. I didn't hear any music. No. Where's the... Hang on. Oh, I see. Sorry. Fixed. Alex. Yep. No. What happened when I did the screen share at the beginning of the live stream? I made the left screen. Can't do it. I made the left screen. You can't see it. Have the music on it. It's doing it. Yeah. No. Let me remove that source. My bad. Sorry, guys. I blame my producer Alex over there in the sound booth. He's really responsible for these things. Alex is supposed to be setting up the scenes, making sure all the music is going, the levels are correct, and honestly, sometimes I don't even know if he's there. So anyway, moving on from that question. Conrad says, hi, Joshua. Can you tell me why on my quad the props and nuts are getting loose? Conrad, you got to use nylock nuts. Don't use just regular nuts. Nylock nuts have a nylon insert that keeps them from backing off. And the other thing is, if the hub is too tall, the nylon may not engage. You may need to get some low-profile nylock nuts to be sure that they're actually engaging and not backing off. That's what I would say about that. Yeah, checking the Discord here for anything. I thought it was Super Saigon says I thought it was too early for a beer, but I've been proven wrong. Super Saigon, it's a Sunday afternoon. You can drink a beer if you want to. Only you and the good Lord to deal with. That's the rule, isn't it? If you're out of church, it's okay to start drinking. So go to the morning service. I don't know. I didn't go to church. B42 Now asks, I thought I saw a video from JB where he explains how to get these props out of the picture. I can't put the camera any forward. With a B42 Now, there's only really two options. One is to up-tilt the camera so the props move down and out of the picture. But given how high in the camera the props are, I don't think that's an option for you. You'd need like 90 degrees up tilt. The other is to move the camera forward or pick a frame that moves the motors outward. You basically don't have a lot of options B42 Now. You just don't have a lot of options except to move to a different frame. I'm sorry to say. Yeah. Alrighty. What do you think about the iFlight Nazgul 5, asks Kappa. iFlight Nazgul 5. Hold on. Let's check that out. I'll tell you what. So I've got this on the way. Make sure I'm not sending more music out. I've got this on the way. And it looks pretty freaking impressive, though. It looks pretty freaking impressive. If we just look at the parts. Where's the... I don't want the prop. I don't want the prop. Where's the dang quad? Hang on. Let's find this darn product. What? Where? What am I doing wrong here? What am I doing wrong here? Does it not exist anymore? Okay. That's strange. Okay, well, anyway. I don't know why that I can't find it anywhere. It's a pretty freaking impressive ready to fly. 5-inch ready to fly, either 4S or 6S. It's got iFlight motors. It's got a iFlight frame. iFlight frames can be kind of hit or miss. But at the price that they're asking for it, it's pretty impressive. So I've got it on the way and I will be reviewing it, but yeah. Conrad says the prop nuts I have are from the X220S. They came with it. Are they wrong or something? No, Conrad, it came with nylocks. But I mean, are you sure you're tightening them all the way down? They shouldn't back off. That's the bottom line. Definitely. Vic and Air FPV, can unbalanced or damaged motors make a quad untunable? I'm having high throttle oscillations on an Acrobat with Brat motors. Vic and Air FPV, one of the things I've learned by hanging out with Aaron Ciotti for the last few weeks is that the motors on a 3-inch are, in any micro, but a 3-inch specifically, are incredibly, incredibly important. So the good news is that the Brat motors are very good motors and they should be smooth and oscillation free. It could be that you have damaged a motor and it's causing, it's off balance, and it's like, you know, when your wheel gets unbalanced on your car and you're going down the highway and it's going, bah, 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 bah. Well, your motors can do that too. It could be that your PIDs aren't right. But here's the question I would ask you, Vic and Air. Did it used to fly smooth and then now it doesn't? Because that always, unless you've been screwing around with the PIDs, that always points to mechanical damage. If you were screwing around with the PIDs, maybe you need to reduce your P gain a little bit if you're having high throttle oscillations. Let's see. It's the Nazgul 5. Yeah, okay, here's the Nazgul. Somebody in the Discord, thank you, Tumbleweed. Somebody in the Discord gave me a link to it. Let's get rid of this mobile link here real quick. Hang on. Oh, there it is. iFlight Nazgul 5. Yeah, in fact, you guys, I should let you know. There's a big Banggood sale going on. Let's see here. It's in my Discord, actually, here. In my Discord, I have a coupon codes channel. And I just got a link to a spreadsheet which has some coupon codes that I'll be posting this later, but I wanted to give my patrons first dibs on it. And one of the coupon codes, this is going to go up on my channel. There's, I think tomorrow when the sale starts. But where's the Nazgul? Here it is, the 4S Nazgul affiliate link here. Boom. What are they marking it down? 20% off. Dang. There you go. Boom. Yeah, so I'll be posting this to my channel tomorrow, I think, is when the sale starts. And, you know, I was on the fence about doing this. Like, I usually don't want to seem like I'm just doing a commercial for somebody. I want you guys to feel like I work for you, not Banggood, right? But a guy from Banggood reached out to me last month, and he said, "Hey, we're having this big sale. Do you want to share these coupon codes with your subscribers?" I was like, "Fine." And then you guys just like jumped all over it. It's like, "Oh my God." So clearly there's interest. So I'll be posting this one too. Anyway, let's see here. TBS Fusion, Russell Baker asks, what's the verdict on TBS Fusion? The verdict is that I heard the pre-orders shipped, and then mine should be coming in the mail, and I will look forward to testing it. As soon as it comes in the mail, I got some ideas for how to test it. Yep. Okay. Well, I gotta... Let's see. Which version... Hang on. Let me get back in the right channel here on my live stream. On my Discord. Live stream. Where's live stream? Live stream chat. There we go. Tamir asks, any thoughts about TBS Fusion and FrSky Wildfire? Well, like I said, Tamir, my impression from some people who've tested the Fusion is that it is still not as good as Rapid Fire. That's not a surprise. Trappy has been kind of a little bit reserved on the performance of the Fusion relative to the Rapid Fire. That being said, if it's a high quality, good performing module, if it beats something like a traditional module like TrueD or OwlRC, it could still be worth the money, especially because it has additional integration features that work with Crossfire. One of the features, I don't think it's supported right now, but they're planning on adding it, is the ability to have the VTX and the goggle sync up so that when you change channel on the VTX, the goggles automatically follow it. That's kind of cool. Yeah, I don't think it's going to beat Rapid Fire in terms of raw performance. As far as the FrSky module goes, so FrSky is coming out. Everybody's coming out with a module to sort of do the sync reconstruction and the frame combining. These are the special technologies that make Rapid Fire and originally Clearview, although I think Rapid Fire has surpassed Clearview in the FPV market today. Not necessarily based on performance, but certainly based on price. So now all these people are coming out with this module that seem to do this. Furious FPV TrueD X, and now the FrSky module has the same thing. How will it perform? It's hard to say. Let's face it, this is very, very hard to do well. It's easy to do it badly and to say we've got sync reconstruction. It's easy to tick the boxes on a marketing spreadsheet and say you can do these things, but to do it really well is very challenging. So I don't mean any disrespect to FrSky, but I doubt it will perform on the level of something like Rapid Fire. Will it beat a traditional module? Maybe, probably. But there's just so much work that has gone into making Rapid Fire as good as it is. And I want to show you guys one example of that came across my radar this week. This is a post on the Immersion RC Hub Facebook group. Let me zoom in for you guys here. Let me just zoom in a little. And the issue that they're troubleshooting is some modules having super overexposed image. I'm trying to find, I think there's an image here in the, nope. So like the sky is really blown out. And Immersion RC had people send these back to their repair center and really dug in. And eventually they finally found the problem. The problem is that a capacitor used on the boards, some of the capacitors, a few of them, had a defect, okay? And that defect didn't show. By the way, they say, well, we burn in all the modules. We test every single Rapid Fire module that we ship. But the issue was that the LCD monitor we used didn't show the exposure issue the way that Fat Shark goggles show it, okay? And so forth. You can just read this post if you want to, but they're going to go back and they're going to test every single one of the capacitors for future modules to make sure they're good. And they may switch to a different kind of capacitor going forward so that the issue doesn't happen again. And I read that and I was like, this is a company that takes QC seriously. Like, because let's face it, like, I'll just say it. Furious FPV, I don't think they would have done this level of detective work to track down this rare, weird issue. I think that Furious FPV would just have sent you a brand new module and gone, well, I guess we just throw that one in the bin. Which, okay. But the point is that is Foxeer, this new module from Foxeer, are they burning in every single one of the modules before they send them out? I would be surprised if the answer was yes. I could be wrong. No disrespect intended. So it's just hard to do this really well, is my point. And Immersion RC does it really well. And that's why they're so freaking expensive. So, okay. How am I liking the Jumper T16 with the Hall gimbals? Asked Daniel Yates. It's okay. It's not my full-time radio yet. I still want the internal multi-protocol module and internal charging. Let's get some super chats out of the way. You're 20 minutes in here. I got like 10, 15 super chats that I'm going to knock out. So let's go ahead and do that. Lilali Smaskin 3. I don't know if I said it. I'm sure I said it wrong. Thank you for 20 Swedish kroners. Swedish? Yeah. Goncalo Rijo, thanks for €5. Any videos or channels you recommend for long range? At the moment, that's what drives me. I don't know about that, Goncalo. There's a few people who have dipped their toes into long range, but as far as people making content like largely about long range, that's a little bit outside my area. I'm not sure who I could recommend. Mada FPV in the regular chat wants to know, do you tune your PIDs in angle mode or acro? Acro. Tune in acro mode. Do not tune, because angle mode is built on top of acro mode. So you can't tune angle mode before you have acro mode tuned, at least roughly. Thanks for 50 Swedish kroners, Lilia Smaxon 3. Thank you so much. No question. Drone Obsessed Jerry, thanks for $5. I'm looking for a new Z02 V1 VTX only for the Beta 85 HD. I can't find it anywhere. Can it even be bought separately? We would have to go to Beta FPV for that, I'm afraid, Jerry. If you've Google searched and you can't find it, they may not sell it separately, but they usually sell spare parts on their site. So, I mean, I would just go straight to their site and look. And what you're looking for is the Z02 VTX. Let's see what we got here. So here's the camera and the VTX. Z02 camera and VTX. Wire connected version. It looks like the camera. So it looks like the camera and VTX are sold together but not separately, Jerry. That seems to be the answer, my friend. Midwest FPV, thanks for $5. Turtle mode won't reverse prop direction. The issue there, Midwest FPV, is usually that the ESC does not support D-Shot. You say you have Luminaire ESCs, but if they're older Luminaire ESCs running BLHeli S, they may not support it. What I would do in your situation is update the firmware on the ESCs to the absolute latest version. 99% chance that they will support D-Shot. But if they are really old ESCs like BLHeli, not BLHeli S, but BLHeli, remember that? They probably don't support D-Shot at all, in which case you're just out of luck. Oh, finally got a question from Lilali's Maxon 3. Thank you for 50 more Swedish kroners. Instaflip on ARM. Betaflight 3D model tracks all axes correctly. Motor mapping and spin is correct. Any idea how to proceed? There are 4 basic things that cause Instaflip on ARM. Number 1, board alignment incorrect. Tip the quadcopter forward, back, left, right. Look at the 3D model in the setup tab. If it moves correctly, forward, back, left, right, yeah, then that's not the issue. Board alignment. That's number 1. Number 2, motor direction. Go to the motors tab. Don't work from memory because you remember the way you think it's set up, but it may not be set up that way. So go to the motors tab, look in the upper left-hand corner of the motors tab at the motor diagram, spin the motors one by one, and then don't just like touch the motor or look at the motor, like take a business card or a piece of paper, I don't know, and touch the motor with it and see which direction the motor pushes the paper so you're 100% sure which direction the motor is spinning. Check the motor direction. Number 3, motor order. Spin the motors one at a time. Raise slider number 1. Look at the diagram in the upper left-hand corner of the motors tab. Look at where motor number 1 is. Verify that the correct motor spins for 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then number 5, the fourth thing that could be wrong is props on incorrectly. If you have a clockwise prop on a counterclockwise spinning motor, the quad will flip out. Those 4 things are almost always the cause of an insta-flip on takeoff. And then we come to the final part of this spiel where you say, I checked all those things. It's fine. It's still insta-flipping. And I say, go back and check again because I guarantee you one of them is wrong. That's just always what it is. Okay. The Jack Russell FPV wants to know best motors, props, and battery for a cinema rig. Jack Russell, I got to tell you, man, so what kind of a cinema rig are you building? 7-inch, 6-inch, 3-inch? It just depends on what you're going for in a cinema rig. For 3-inch, I would look at Paul Nurkola's Cinewhoop setup. I believe that's a 3-inch setup. I would just find somebody who's doing it successfully and copy them. That's the answer. Pet Term 77. Now we've got I believe these are Norwegian kroners. A lot of kroners in the chat today. 55 kroner. Horrible diagonal lines in the feed. New Ladrib motors, caps on all 4 SCs and battery leak. Cam directly wired to the Unify HV. Any tips? In my opinion, Pet Term 77, diagonal lines usually mean regulator noise. So how are you powering the Unify HV? Power the Unify HV direct from VBAT, power the camera direct from VBAT, and see if that gets rid of the diagonal lines. Mike Kiercia, thank you for $5. I received an HDLRC Dyno Shot 40 amp 4-in-1. It's basically a slightly weaker Dyno Shot 60 amp. You have any ideas what flight controllers it'll work with? Mike, it'll work with any flight controller. You just got to figure out the pin out, okay? So you got to figure out, you got to look it up or something, but you can plug it directly into the flight controller if you personally verify the pin out. If it comes down to it, you can just solder it to the flight controller. That's fine too. Thanks Jason Hubbard for $5. Thanks Buechi FPV for $6. $6. Dave Lockwood, thanks for $2. Thanks for answering my email. No problem, Dave. My pleasure. A.L. Markovich, thanks for $5. I did the L1 and L10 mod following your videos. Yay! Now waiting for the Rapid Fire Fusion video. Me too, man. I can't wait. Got Props FPV. Thanks for 7. ZAR. What's a ZAR? I gotta know. South African Rand. All right, excellent. Thank you for 7 of those. Supercell FPV, that's Chamer. That's Chamer in the chat. Thank you, Supercell FPV, for $30. Love from the Discord. What do you think of the Diatone GT X549 frame? I usually like Diatone's 5-inch frames. Let's have a look at the... Oh, this is that one. Oh, my God. Look at this. Look at this frame from Diatone. Molded carbon fiber. Now, here's the thing about molded carbon fiber. Molded carbon fiber is difficult, time-consuming, and expensive to make. However, it is, if designed correctly, it is categorically stronger and lighter because by shaping the carbon fiber, you can focus the... Oh, damn it. You can focus the stresses, exactly where you could have the strength be exactly where the stress is going to be. This is a hell of a good frame. Now, here's the thing, though. How much is it? How much is it? Where's the price on it? Because we got to know, right? How much is it? When the page loads, maybe it's $150 for the frame kit. $150 for the frame kit. That's a lot of freaking money for a quadcopter frame. And here's the thing. It's gonna break. Right? Is it stronger than sheet carbon? Sure. Let's just give them the benefit of the doubt and say they've designed it properly and it's stronger than sheet carbon. But it's gonna break. Nothing can withstand the crashes that we put our quadcopters through. And when it breaks, you're out $150. And no, it doesn't have interchangeable arms. So you gotta really want that to be willing to spend $150 on it and then go crash it and break it. But it's pretty freaking cool. Let's see here. I think we are, in fact, caught up. Yay, on the super chats. What do we got here? Let's take a look. Let's take a look here. DJ Pop points out, if you have beeper and turtle mode on at the same time, then the motors won't reverse. DJ Pop, I really appreciate you pointing that out to me. I'm going to try and file that away. I didn't know that, and that's a really good tip. I'm going to try and file that away. Tumbleweed 30 says, so I know you've flown the DJI quad a lot more. I have HDOs and rapid fire right now. Is the freeze framing at the far reaches of signal been a deal breaker for you? No, not at all. Tumbleweed 30 at 700 milliwatt output power. I feel like the DJI system range is roughly comparable to what I would expect to get out of a 5 gig system running at about, say, 500 to 800 milliwatts. The range itself is about the same. The latency, the freeze frames, you just you see that your RSSI bar is getting down to 2 bars and you go, oh, I need to watch out. It's different than analog, where you might go, oh, I'm seeing some static. But you anticipate when you're getting to the end of your range, and then you turn around. You don't try to fly through it, or you get ready for the freeze frame to happen. But it's not any different than if you have static that knocks your image out for a second. It's just a little bit sort of unexpected. The biggest complaint I might have, there's 2 complaints I might have about the DJI system. And one is that the changing latency definitely does get you out sometimes. More so than the freeze-framed images. The freeze-framed images are, until they get really bad, it's fairly easy to fly through them, right? In the same way that when your analog video kind of drops out, you just kind of freeze up on the sticks and you hope you fly through it, right? It's no different with the DJI system. The changing latency, first let's be clear that the stories you've heard of 800, 900 millisecond latency, I don't know what that is. I've never seen my system go above about 60 milliseconds latency. Now, 60 milliseconds isn't great, but it's flyable. It's not great, though. Typically, the latency on my DJI system is around 30, 25 milliseconds, but when it goes from 30 to 60 at the edge of range, that if that happens at a moment where you need to fly precisely, it can take you a second to adjust. None of these things are deal breakers, and there's 2 reasons for that. One is that they're not that bad. If you're a world-class racer just going all out around a course, maybe then you need absolutely consistent latency, and that would be a deal breaker. But I'm not. So you just sort of learn to anticipate it. What was the other reason it's not? The other reason it's not a deal breaker is, shoot, guys, I got to tell you, I'm not making this up. Every time I put those freaking goggles on and look at the feed, I'm just like, whoa! It looks so freaking good. It's so nice. But here is the other gotcha. I go back and forth with this. It's so freaking good to fly. But then I was in Orlando with the Rotor Riot guys, and we were all flying. Everybody was flying. Corey, Drew, everybody was there. And I was flying my DJI system, and it was like I couldn't see. They were like, oh, check out this gap I just hit. And I was like, And eventually I ended up putting my analog goggles back on just so I could sort of participate in this experience with them. And that's hard to, yeah. Anyway, there you go. Let's talk about the Ignator is asking in the chat. Ignator is asking, Prashant Rajan, don't be begging for donations in the chat, dude. What's going on? Is that what's happening? Are you begging for donations? Come on, dude. Don't do that. Can you donate me 1 drone? No. Come on. Timeout. You're in timeout, dude. No offense, but that's not cool. Let's talk about the SkyZone Sky 030. What? Yeah, no, this thing here, SkyZone Sky 030. I have them, and I'm going to be reviewing them. But I got to tell you guys. Nah, Reagan GTX, I'm not going to boot him. I know what's going on. I'm going to assume from the name Prashant Ranjan that he is in India. And I talk to these guys all the time. They struggle with the exchange rate on currency to be able to put together even 1 drone for some of these guys. It's, a month of income. So I don't begrudge them trying to get, the gear that we would just throw away, they would be happy to get. But the live stream chat's not the place for it. So he gets a timeout, but he doesn't get a kick because I feel for him. Okay. Juiced Fish says, if I join the Discord, will I get help on my first drone to buy? Juiced Fish, I would love to have you as a patron if you feel like I earned it, but I will help you figure out what drone to buy regardless. Just message me. SkyZone, Sky 030. I've been flying these this week. I got to tell you, they're pretty freaking good. I'm working on the full review. The The biggest downside, they look. I haven't done a side by side with the HDOs. My daily drivers are Fat Shark HD3s, and I will tell you, these kick the pants off the HD3s. The image is not as big, but I flew 2 packs on the SkyZone Sky 030s, and then I put the HD3s on, and it just felt like there was a fog in front of my eyes. There actually was, because my lenses were all fogged up, so I cleaned them. But still, the increased contrast and resolution of the Sky 030 OLED screen just makes a big, big difference in your ability to see obstacles, especially flying into darker areas. I could just see more with these goggles than with my HD3s. So then the question is, what about the HDOs? And the answer is, I haven't flown the HDOs side by side with the 030s yet. My HDOs actually are used exclusively for testing modules, but I need to get them out and get them on my face and try them. Reagan GTX, no, I didn't say they're not better than the HDOs. When did I say that, Reagan? I said the HD3s, the HD3s. That's what I said. I have not yet side by side the Sky 030 with the HDO. I need to do it, but they're pretty freaking good. They're pretty freaking good. And the Sky 030, no, 030. Wait, 030. Is it a 0? There we go. The Sky 030 is $429 compared to $450 for an HDO plus $50 to $150 for a module. This is pretty freaking compelling for a lot of people. I will say that the pros I have, like I talked to Ladrib about this when I was in Orlando a couple weeks ago, and he said they're pretty freaking good. They look great, but I'm not giving up my rapid fire. The people who are the most concerned about the absolute best performance are going to stick with rapid fire. I have seen SkyZone posting some renders of like something that lets you stick a rapid fire on the side of the goggle. Like, it seems like it's going to be pretty cumbersome, but if SkyZone comes out with a way to also use rapid fire, then wow, that's very interesting. So there you go. Matthew Smiley, rein it in, friend. Rein it in. That's not cool. You're in timeout too, my friend. That's not cool. Don't do that. Shadunk, I have a TBS module on the way. It's in the mail, my friend. What is the best transmitter to buy for around $200? Looking to change from Spectrum. Jumper T16, you're liking the reviews on the Jumper T16. I don't see any reason not to get the Jumper T16. I will say, one of the big things about something like the Jumper T16 is, how is the durability? I reached out to the guys at Grayson Hobby. Grayson Hobby is a local hobby shop in Loganville, Georgia, but they unlike many local hobby shops, Grayson Hobby stocks all FPV stuff as well as just sort of, traditional fixed wing and land stuff. So they sell the Jumper T16, and I asked them, how has your, are you getting a lot of returns? Are you getting a lot of DOA? And they said, no, it's good. So that was the final straw for me on the Jumper T16 to be able to sort of recommend it without hesitation. If you look at it, the Jumper T16, and you think the feature set and the price are right for you, I think you should go for it. Any updates on Orca? Ion FPV asks. No updates since last week. We know there was a couple-week delay to source the power switch that they were using. Kind of ironic. The power switch held them up. I haven't heard anything more. As soon as I get those, I will go ahead and review them for you. Yeah, Skunkworks, no module on the SkyZones, but for some people that's a plus. They just want a one-piece thing. Tom in the Discord asks, is there a toothpick in the 13th anniversary sale that's worth buying, like the Emax Freestyle? Well, the Emax Freestyle is quite good. Let's see if there's a toothpick in this 13th anniversary spreadsheet that I'm going to be posting. Yashin Cinecan, iFlight Cinebee 4K, Turbo B. There you go. Emax Tiny Hawk Freestyle. There you go. Here, Tom. I'll post that. I'll paste that in the Discord for you. Oh, Tom, Tom. Just go. You have access to the coupon code channel on my server, Tom. Go over there and grab that. Yep, the Tiny Hawk Freestyle is in there, and it's a pretty solid little quad. True Style asks, what's your own personal mantra on when to retire a LiPo from your stable? True Style, I have a video on that. Here is the... No. There we go. True Style, here's the video I would tell you to watch about that, which shows the criteria that I use to know when to retire a battery. The short version is that if it's like massively physically deformed, if the internal resistance is not consistent, if it's coming down unbalanced from a flight, or if it's just if it's punctured, like you can literally see that it's punctured, those are some of the things I use to get rid of them. The internal resistance is a good test because sometimes batteries can be a little beat up, but the internal resistance is solid. Let's see here. Lucid Guys in the Discord asks, I assume it's embargoed for you to talk about it. When will we hear about Bitefrost? Lucid Guy, there's no embargo because there's no product to talk about. I don't know if you heard, but Fat Shark Bitefrost, Fat Shark's HD system to compete with DJI. Fat Shark looked at the DJI system and went, oh, this is really good. And they basically released a statement saying, we think Bitefrost is very good, but it's not as good as DJI, and we're not going to release it. So, Fat Shark Bitefrost is on hold until they decide that it's good enough to release. Could be, I don't think you should assume it's going to be in the foreseeable future. It's not going to be like next month. They had to go back to the drawing board. So, there's no embargo. There's nothing to talk about. Bitefrost. And here's the thing. If Bitefrost comes out in 6 months, well, DJI will have a 6-month head start. I mean, DJI is not just going to sit there. So I think Fat Shark has their work cut out for them. Let's put it that way. Beeb in the Discord asks, Crossfire Nano RX is powered from a 5-volt regulator. It powers on, but unable to communicate with the flight controller. Do I need to connect the ground of the back to the ground of the flight controller? Yes, you definitely do. The ground reference for all of the devices in the system needs to be consistent. That is absolutely why it's not connecting. Simon Saucy in the Discord wants to know, is the HD2 better than the Attitude V5, or are they about the same? The HD2, Simon, has a much, much bigger image, but it is also an LCD, not an OLED screen, and I think a lot of people would feel that the Attitude V5 is the better looking goggle, especially because some people feel the HD2 has a too big of a screen. It's blurry at the edges. The thing about the Attitude V5 that bugs me is that the screen is not a standard aspect ratio. It's 16:10 aspect ratio, and it doesn't squish the image. It displays the image in 4:3 and then chops off the top and bottom. So it messes with your field of view. I don't know why they did that. I wish they hadn't. Okay. Anyway. Oh God, Sylpheed X says, I melted my first DJI Air unit because I used the Lumineer 12-volt step-down regulator. It was rated for 600 milliamps. Sylpheed, here's the deal. Here's the deal, my friend. The DJI Air unit pulls, I think it's 9 watts. Let's see. Let's just double-check that. Let's just double-check that. No. That's for the OcuSync. DJI, there it is. What is this? Supply voltage. So that's the goggles. Oh, come on. There we go. The air unit, it pulls 4 to 9 watts in normal temperature. So let's say it pulls 10 watts just to be safe. If it's pulling 10 watts and we divide by 12 volts, that gives us 830 milliamps. That's why you melted it. So you need to be able to supply 10 watts, let's say, to be safe. So you purchased a 9-volt 2-amp regulator. 9 volts times 2 amps is 18 watts. You're good to go. Okay? 12 volts times 600 milliamps is 7.2 watts. You were pretty close. That's interesting. But I feel like if you need 9 watts, you should have more than that, because a lot of times the amp rating on these regulators is a little bit not quite honest. I think that 9-volt 2-amp is going to be fine. Okay. Hate Eternal Maver. What's my opinion? What's my opinion on why you fail-safed your R9? Buddy with Crossfire next to you? Doubt it. Receiver not getting enough amps? Doubt it. Or getting too low behind a tiny apex? I don't. That's tough, but probably the last one. Win at FPV. Thank you for coming to your first live stream. What budget pair of FPV goggles do you recommend? Win FPV. I'm going to refer you to my video. Best 300. Embarrassing. Embarrassing. Look at this. Best $300 goggle, Joshua Bardwell. Why is UAV Futures ranking for a search with my name in it? Why is he above me for best $300 goggle? Like, if it was just best $300 goggle, I would understand. Why is he ranking for a search with my name in it? Hold on. We got to investigate. Is he putting me in his tags? He's not. Why is he ranking for my name? I don't know. Oh, he's just beaten me. Wow. Okay, well, screw him. Good job, Stu. I'm going to refer you to my best FPV goggle, not Stu's video, because screw that guy. No, I'm just joking. Best FPV goggle around $300. Hello. There we go. That's what I would suggest you check out Win at FPV. And the only thing I would say when at FPV is that the $429 SkyZone Sky 030 has to be considered. I don't know what you consider to be budget, though, because $429 a lot of people wouldn't consider to be, quote-unquote, budget. Yaman says, hey, JB, do you think TrueDX has room for improvement with a firmware update? Yaman, I think that firmware updates may make small improvements, but I think that probably the hardware design is going to be the biggest limitation on its performance. Without a hardware update, I'm not sure where it's going to be able to go after that. Christopher Bremert wants to know about the Nazgul 5. I talked about it a little earlier in the stream, Christopher, so I'm gonna pass that on that one. Let's see here. Opinion on China Hobbyline batteries. Ben Jacobs, China Hobbyline batteries, if you can find them on sale, can be some of the best value you could possibly get. However, if you order from the international warehouse, they take weeks to get there. But every so often, the international warehouse will have a sale, and you can get like a 100C 1300 milliamp hour 4S for $17, and that is an absolute freaking steal. I don't think Stu's watching FPV Freaky because I think it's the middle of the night where he is. Bad Dog McGinty. Betaflight won't connect with the trash can. Works with the Beta 85X. Is my trash can fried? Probably not, Bad Dog McGinty. If it won't connect and it just won't connect, try holding down the bootloader button and plugging it in and see if you can re-flash it. Make sure you flash the correct firmware to it. If you have a configuration backup, like a command line dump, you can look at the very first line of the command line dump where it says version. But I would just try to re-flash it. It's probably not fried. UTVol618 in the Discord asks, I have a Kakute F7 Teco ESC Atlatl stack. I only get the first 3 tones. No lights on the flight controller. Well, the flight controller is not powered up. When I plug in USB, I get lights on the flight controller. That means your 5-volt regulator on your flight controller is dead. So the flight controller has a 5-volt regulator. It's used to power the flight controller itself and any accessories like the receiver. When you plug in a battery, if the 5-volt regulator is dead, the flight controller doesn't power up. USB provides its own 5-volt power, and that's why when you plug in USB, it powers up. So basically what you need to do is replace your flight controller. You could replace the 5-volt regulator, or you could use an external 5-volt regulator, but most people are going to consider that more hassle than they care to go to. And the other thing that's confusing you, UTVol, is that your video transmitter is powering up. The flight controller is just passing through VBAT. That doesn't mean anything. That doesn't mean anything. Okay. Let's see here. What do we got? Why are the Scouts so expensive, asks Macy. Because they're freaking good. They're well built. There's a video online, somebody doing a teardown of the Scouts. They're not a piece of junk, cheap, just churning out hardware. They're a good piece of hardware. Now, you may not want to spend the money on the Scouts. I respect that. But don't think that just because it's a box goggle, it should be cheap and crappy. And, you know, the Scouts are very well made. The EV800D is a good goggle, too. It's not made to quite the same standard as the Scouts, but many people love them. Yeah. Let's see. What would you recommend for an FPV backpack to hold your quads internally? What is the one? This is the one. I think, no, will not restock. Damn. I think that this is the one that Vanover uses. It's called the Skypack. GetFPV says will not restock, which makes me wonder if it is just discontinued or something. But this is a gigantic freaking backpack. And you could just get out. Vanover gets like 10 quads inside it. But I don't actually know if it's still being made. But that's like the biggest FPV backpack I've ever seen. And fits so much stuff inside it. Christopher Bremert, I talked about the iFlight Nazgul 5 earlier in the stream, and you can go back and watch the DVR if you want to see that. Dave Lockwood, the Torval pit stop bag is my personal choice. However, I don't think it's fantastic for storing quads internally. That was the question. Let's see here. What camera angle do I usually use for casual, fun freestyle? Asks Tyler Gates. Tyler, I'm usually around 30 to 35 degrees. Pretty consistent about that, too. I got super chats coming in. Let's get these out of the way. Big and Mouth 1, thanks for $2. Reagan GTX, thanks for $5. Lily Schmaxen 3. I went back and double-checked board alignment, motor direction, and motor placement. All good. Now what? Then it's got to be your props. You got your props on wrong. I mean, I don't think you do, but that it's... I really just 100% guarantee you it's one of these things. If your props are unright, the next thing to check is if you redid the board alignment by using the sensor alignment function in Betaflight instead of the board alignment, you could have moved one of the sensors but not the other. Like you moved the accelerometer but not the gyro. So use board alignment, not sensor alignment. That's another thing to try. Maurice 17, thanks for €2. Was my last drone build 4S or 6S? Maurice, the motors I used were 2450 kV. That's going to be a 4S kV. If you run 2450 kV on 6S, the motors will spin way too freaking fast, blow up your props, kill your batteries. There's some gray areas, like a 2150 kV motor is canonically usually targeted at 5S, but you can run it on 6S and you can run it on 4S and get okay results. But generally, if you see 24 to 2700 kV, that's a 4S build. If you see 16 to 1900 kV, that's a 6S build. MC's Creations, if the channel order was wrong, then I don't think the quad would arm because the throttle would not be zeroed. Dave Lockwood, I know the Torval pit stop bag has internal storage. I just don't think you can fit many quads on the inside. Queue up the people with pictures of quads stored on the inside. Whenever I go on a trip, my Torval pit stop bag, which I adore, the inside is full of stuff and the quads are on the outside. If your primary goal is to store quads on the inside, I don't think the Torval is the one I would recommend. Any recommended 3-inch motor beside the Bratz? Asks Vicanair FPV. Thanks for $2.99. 2 recommended 3-inch motors coming out, assuming that you're looking at the Acrobrat and you're going for a little bit of a heavier build. The size of motor that Aaron Ciotti is recommending is a 1506. iFlight has a 1506 coming out very soon that I'm going to be using on my build. And I'm going to just spill the beans that T-Motor has a 1506 coming out. That has not been publicly announced. Those two would be very good. As far as what's out today, that's tougher. The Brat motors are very good. But they're hard to get. They're out of stock, aren't they? I just had a question about about this from somebody else, and what did Ciati tell me? Let's see. T-Motor 1507 prototypes. The Emax, if you're under 240 grams, the Emax 1306s are very good. But I don't think if you're looking at the brats, I don't think you're under 240 grams. Yemen, it's normal for the antennas, for the connectors on the receiver module of your Fat Shark to get hot. The module itself gets hot just because it's using a lot of power. It's pretty normal for them to get hot. Don't worry about that. Ken Hicks, yeah, I agree with you, Ken Hicks. If your goal is to store quads inside the bag, the Low Pro Quad Guard BPX3 is a very good one, and they've been marked down and priced lately. They have an area on the inside that is specifically designed to store the quad flat. I find it a little annoying to have to lift up that flap on the quad guard to get the transmitter out, but I do think that's also a very good backpack. True Style says, for 3-inch motors, I do like the new 1408 iFlight motor. Those aren't bad, and I'm just repeating what Ciati has told me. iFlight makes very good motors. Let's just get that out of the way. What Ciati has said that is that the taller stator of like a 1407 and a 1408 has a very nonlinear curve, and especially when you're dealing with a micro quad, you need that linearity to get some good control. So I suppose if you were like racing and you were planning on just being all out on the throttle, then maybe something like a 1407 or a 1408 would be a good choice. But for like an Acrobrat style freestyle rig, what Ciati recommends is a wider, shorter motor like a 1506. Well, what Ciati said, and I hate to just keep saying what Ciati said, but I feel like I don't want to represent someone else's ideas as my own. I want to give credit where credit's due. So I want you guys to know when I'm speaking for myself and when I'm just repeating somebody else's smart ideas. And I don't know a lot about 3 inches yet, so I'm just like siphoning all the information out of Ciati that I can. But what he said is that if he was going to run the 1407 or 1408 motors on a freestyle rig, he would use like an 80% throttle curve to make it a little easier to handle. Oh, Ciati's here. Say his name and he appears. Ciati is here in the chat. What up? Hey, guys, with any questions about micros especially, but anything else, if you cannot get enough of Q&A live streams, Ciati last week, after I went off the air at 3 p.m., in about 1 hour, I'm going to finish up, he did another stream. So you could just keep going. We can all rate his stream in about an hour. Let's see here. Short circuits. We're going back to this question from Lily Schmackson about the quad flipping out. Short circuits asks, is the yaw motor direction reversed, but motors are not set in BL Heli? Short circuits, that is why I say look at the diagram in the motors tab. Look at the motors diagram in the motors tab. Don't go from memory. Because if you have ticked the yaw motor reversed slider, the motor diagram in the motors tab will also show the motor directions reversed. So if you compare the motor order and motor direction in the motors tab to the diagram that is on the motors tab, then you will get the correct outcome. Ken Hatz in the Discord wants to know, how do the Fat Shark HD2 and HD3 stack up to the Attitude V5 or the SkyZone Sky O2C? Trying to find the best value goggle for the $200 to $300 price range. If you can find an HD3 for $300, I think you should go for it. I think that's a hell of a good deal, but I don't think you're going to find one for $300. The Attitude V5 is a very good-looking goggle with the OLED screen. It's got an annoying aspect ratio, and it slices off the top and the bottom of the image, so you lose vertical field of view. But it's a pretty solid goggle if you like that OLED look. SkyZone Sky O2C, I got, you know what? I just got to refer you to my best $300 goggle video, to be honest with you, because it sort of breaks them all down. Ken Hotz, let me just link you to that. I will have to, once again, be annoyed that Stu ranks higher than me for a search with my own damn name in it. I mean, yeah. Ken Hatz, here you are in the chat, my friend. OCD FPV has a GTB 339, which is the TBS Pro 32 Nano VTX. Cannot get smart audio working. You need to, I've heard people say you need to update the firmware on the Nano VTX before smart audio will work. I haven't verified that, but OCD FPV, open up the TBS Agent X program and make sure that you have the very latest firmware on the Nano. And then at the end of the day, OCD FPV, I mean, I would love to help you, but reach out to TBS tech support, you know, because that's why you pay premium prices for their products, is because they are supposed to support them. So Martin Leicher, is there any difference if I power my VTX from VCC or battery directly? No, Martin, there shouldn't be any difference. I always, if I'm powering my VTX from VBAT, I always use the pad on the flight controller just because it keeps the wiring simpler. So there shouldn't be any difference. Past That Productions wants to know, just a quick question about RX antennas. I know the length matters. Will any old wire work? No. No. So the antennas are made from coaxial cable, and they're made from coaxial cable with a specific characteristic impedance. You can make a 2.4 gigahertz antenna out of a length of wire. If you look at the like the Spectrum satellite receivers, they just have a length of hard copper wire soldered to the board. But the board itself has some characteristics that are designed to make that work. If you just take a length of copper wire from the hardware store and solder it to your receiver, it will not work correctly. Okay. Any reason not to use my Spectrum DX7 for getting into FPV quads, JBW 5485? Well, look, dude, if you already own it and you like it, then by all means use it. The Spectrum Quad Race receiver, Spectrum has a couple pretty good micro receivers that are pretty decent. You'll find that a lot of people in FPV are using OpenTX radios like FrSky radios or the Jumper T16 or other OpenTX-based radios. But if you have a Spectrum and you like it, by all means, you're not going wrong by using it. Can you fit a GPS onto an SP Racing F3? It was on CleanFlight. Now it's updated to Betaflight. Yeah. Does the latest version of Betaflight drop GPS functionality out of F3 targets? Betaflight has removed a bunch of functionality because it doesn't fit on F3 targets. So if you updated to the newest version of Betaflight and suddenly there's no GPS capabilities, that's why. Let's see here. Got some super chats coming in. Let's go ahead and get them out of the way. Jan Razek, thank you for €5. Mamba, F722S plus 4-in-1 ESC plus F40 2400 kV. Is that a good freestyle combo? Yeah, I think so. The biggest thing you'd be concerned about in that combo is the motor. That flight controller and the ESC, it's not like a flight controller is better for freestyle or whatever. It doesn't really matter. But an F40 2400 kV is a decent freestyle motor. Very versatile. The 2400 kV range is going to give you a lot of choice as to what prop you choose to go with. You can go for a lower pitch prop and get smoother. You can get for a higher pitch prop. If your quad is a little heavier, it'll sharpen up the handling. I think that's a fine all-around choice. Peter Respond, thanks. Wow. Peter Respond says, I guess I missed the decimal point. I hope you're joking, Peter. I hope you're joking, but Peter gave $50. Thank you, Peter. It's very generous. Peter, you can ask me 10 questions. You can ask me as many as you want. Broke Mechanic, timeline. Thank you for $2. Timeline on your F7 flight controller coming out. Broke Mechanic, I have got the feedback from all the beta testers. I've passed it back to the manufacturer, and just rolling along, but no specific timeline yet. Joe Graves FPV, thanks for $2. Have you flown the beta FPV HX100 yet? I have not, but it is high on my list. I will be doing that next week ASAP. Let's see here. Harry Norqueve, Can I use the Tiny Hawk S with 2S at half throttle and with the Mockingbird tune? Harry, I think the Mockingbird does, unless Mockingbird released a specific 2S tune for the Tiny Hawk S, I wouldn't assume that the Mockingbird tune that was developed for 1S would work well on 2S. Emacs was very emphatic that if you're going to run the Tiny Hawk on 2S, you must use a certain PID profile. So I wouldn't assume that the 1S Mockingbird tune would work well on 2S. Vector Roll, what's your favorite venue to fly? Any spots outside of your house you'd love to visit often and why? I got to tell you guys, that office park I was at with Stingy, where we did me copying his tricks, is so fun to fly. It's so good. It's too bad that it's not in Knoxville. Knoxville has no great office parks. The Atlanta area has so many great office parks. So good. Let's see here. Mods FPV. Mods FPV says, you have so many drones. Sell it. Nobody used for future except. When I have extra drones, I typically do giveaways on my Patreon. By the way, in case it's not clear, because I said this earlier, somebody said, hey, you haven't done a giveaway on your YouTube channel in a while. And I said, I'm doing most of my giveaways on Patreon now. But hang on, before you get, they were like, oh, I see. So you only do giveaways for your patrons. Well, first of all, what if I did? But second of all, no. Because there's actually a law in the United States that says that if you charge money to enter a giveaway, then there's all kinds of regulations. And it's actually basically not legal for everybody you see on the internet who is saying sub to me, like my page in exchange for entering a giveaway. In the US, they're actually breaking the law. Didn't know that. It's true. So I was doing that on Patreon. I was doing Patreon exclusive giveaways a while back. And I was also doing giveaways on my YouTube channel. And Patreon reached out and said, well, actually, you can't do patrons only giveaways because you're charging people for access to the giveaway. You're charging them by they join your Patreon. So all of the giveaways that I do on my Patreon page right now are open to anyone. You can join them just like anybody else. You don't have to be a patron to join them. And that's why every month I basically go through all my stuff and I get all the stuff that I kind of don't need anymore, and then I give it away on Patreon. So, for example, last month, what did I give away? Where's the last month? August giveaway winners. Where's the August giveaway? Here's the August giveaway. And last month in August, I gave away Holy Bro Copus 2, Cheater Quad, Emacs Babyhawk 4-inch, Foxeer Box 2, Runcam 5, Yashin Wizard TS215. That was all the stuff I gave away last month. So that is open for, you can, if you go right now, you can view this and you could enter. I'll be posting September's giveaway soon. Of course, I would always love to have you as a patron, obviously. But if you want to join the giveaway, just keep an eye on that page until I post the September giveaway, and you can join it too. So when you see all the extra quads behind me, there's two things. Either I'm using them for testing, or I'm going to be giving away on to my patrons probably. Okay. Let's see what we got here. Did I catch up on the super chats? Yeah. Okay. Sylphid X asks, is there a type of frame, motors, and props you would recommend for a car chase rig? Yeah, Sylphid, that's a very good question. I gotta preface this by saying I've done a little bit of thinking about this, but not a ton. So, like, if you really want the answer, you got to go ask somebody like Steele or Paul Nurkala or Johnny FPV if you can get them to give you their secrets. Those guys really specialize in this. But here's the thing with car chasing. You got to first ask yourself how fast the car is going. So, like, you see these guys doing drift chasing or motorbike chasing, and the problem is that your camera's up tilt determines your quad's cruising speed. So if your cruising speed is faster than the vehicle you're chasing, when you center them in the frame, whoosh, you pass them. And so what you see when guys are doing chasing of like drift cars is they pass it and they flip around and they turn around, and it's constantly, they're like circling the thing because they can't slow down. Okay? So the first thing you got to do if you really want to have a good chase rig is tune your camera up tilt so that your quad is moving at the desired speed relative to the vehicle. This will take a little bit of experience. Obviously, you have a little bit of flexibility. If you climb and look down, you'll pitch forward and speed up. If you descend, you'll pitch back and you'll slow down. So you have a little bit of flexibility based on how high you are relative to the vehicle you're chasing. But when I want to set up a chase scenario, I usually have to drop my up tilt to a lower up tilt so that I don't just whoosh past the guy, especially if it's like a drift car or if it's like a motorbike or something. On the other hand, if what you're going to do is you're going to like chase a guy as he's going 80 miles an hour down the road, somehow you figured out how to do this legally, then you're going to want to have a lot more up tilt so you can really get in there and keep up. The next thing is a range and flight time. Now, flight time matters because the longer you can chase the guy, the better. The less time you're going to have to spend landing, getting them to turn around. Or sometimes if you're shooting an event like a race or an exhibition, you don't have the option to say, "Hey, can you stop while I put another battery on?" You just got to get in the air and stay there. So I think for a chase rig, looking at something like 6-inch or even 7-inch props could be a good deal. Maybe 6 or 7-inch on 5S to get a little bit more power and a little more speed. But you probably don't need a ton of agility because when you're shooting a chase scenario, you probably don't want to do like a bunch of flippy flops because the audience who's going to be watching you chase a drift car or something, they're not expecting to see flippy flops. So I think something like a 6 or 7-inch with a decent top speed, but maybe not the most top speed, and a heavier battery for good flight time, that's the kind of direction I would probably go. But if you talk to somebody like Johnny FPV, Mr. Steele, Paul Nurkala, who does chase footage like on a daily basis, I think even Tommy Umagod has some experience with that. And if they tell you different, listen to them. Let's see here. What do we got? What do you think about the Tyro 69? Asks Kantek Gutski. I love the Tyro line of quad kits. They are one of the cheapest ways to get into the air, but let's be honest. When you spend $79 on a quadcopter kit, you are not getting the best electronics you can get. The bearings are pretty poor. The electronics do not take a beating. If what you're going to do is, if that's like the last thing you got to spend money on, then do it. And it's not a bad way to spend your money, but you can do better than the Tyro kits by spending more money. Antonello Bartiromo, will TBS Fusion kill rapid fire? Personally, I don't think so. Even Trappy, think about how Trappy talks about TBS products. Trappy is the biggest advocate for the supremacy of TBS products. Ask Trappy what's the best control link. He'll say Crossfire. Ask Trappy what's the best video transmitter. He'll say Unify. Ask Trappy whether Fusion is better than rapid fire, and he says maybe up close it's a little better, but at distance, and I'm not making this up. This is straight from one of his live streams. So the fact that even Trappy is like a little, it might not be the best, means that it's not the best in terms of pure RF performance. But I think TBS Fusion is going to have some interesting features like the ability to have the VTX follow the goggle module so you can change channels on your quad and just by flipping switches on your goggles. It's going to have these other interesting things that may make it worth getting, even if the pure RF sensitivity is not the strongest. Anyway. Ben Jacobs wants to know how to use a 3.3 volt satellite on a flight controller that supports only 5 volts. Ben Jacobs, there's two options here. One is that you just need to get a little 3.3 volt regulator. Two is get a Spectrum receiver that takes 5 volts. Okay, well, you have a satellite already, but some of the newer Spectrum receivers take 5 volts. I think the Quad Race receiver does. The third thing you can do is the buzzer. Every flight controller has a 3.3 volt regulator on it because the F3 or the F4 or the F7 chip is actually running at 3.3 volts most of the time, if not always. They just don't always break out the 3.3 volt pad. So you can sometimes, the most common place to get it is the bootloader pad. One of the two bootloader pads or one of the two sides of the bootloader button will have 3.3 volts on it. And if you solder the power wire of your receiver to that pad, you can get 3.3 volts. Here's the catch, though. The 3.3 volt regulator sometimes has a really low amp rating. And so it's possible in some cases that your receiver would pull enough power that it would burn out that regulator. So it's not without risk, but those are some options. Let's see. Yemen says, I am not able to turn on pit mode using Lua script on my Tyrannus. I am able to turn off pit mode and do everything else. Yemen, I'm pretty sure that this used to be true, and it might still be true. Smart audio VTXs they power up in pit mode. Then you take them out of pit mode and they refuse to go back into pit mode. This isn't necessarily true for every single one, but it sounds like it's true for yours. This is one of the reasons why, for some reason, the Tramp doesn't have this problem. The Tramp can go into and out of pit mode at will. I don't know why smart audio receivers refuse to do it, but they do. 661 FPV, did I say buzzer pad? I meant to say the bootloader pad. If I said the buzzer pad, that's a mistake. Always check with your multimeter anyway. But yeah, it's the bootloader pad where you can get 3.3 volts off of, not the buzzer pad. I thought I said bootloader. Maybe I accidentally said buzzer. Okay. Josh Lazzie wants the link to my Banggood 13th deal spreadsheet. Oh, all right. You talked me into it. I wanted to make sure my patrons got first dibs on this spreadsheet because some of these coupons are actually limited. But I'll paste it here just for you, Josh Lazzie. No, I'm joking. These links are affiliate links in the spreadsheet. If you choose to use them, if you make any purchase, I will get a small commission, just so you know, in the interest of like full disclosure. But there's the spreadsheet. I'm going to make a video about it soon if you don't get it here. Let's see. Do you think the Diatone GTR 349 would be good as a first quad? Bernat Rosello, it might be. It might be. It would be a little fast for some people, but some people start with a 5-inch and do okay. If you've been practicing in the sim and feel pretty comfy, the 349 would be an okay first quad. Here's the biggest thing I think that I would hesitate on, Bernat. When it breaks, it's going to be a pain in the ass to fix it because those micro quads, the soldering is so fiddly on them. Okay? That's one of the advantages of a 5-inch. Now, the 349 should be more durable than a 5-inch by nature of its lightweight, but then again, it goes pretty freaking fast. When you break a 5-inch, you have just that much more room on the larger flight controller to work on. So I think the 349, I wouldn't be like my first choice for a first quad, but if you're leaning toward it and you think you can handle it, it's a good choice. Let's see here. Does Betaflight 356 support smart audio? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely it does. SlidB FPV, if it won't save and it won't adjust to what you change to, then probably your wiring is incorrect or your ports config is incorrect. Amazing Sauce says, is there a huge downside to configuring and setting up your first drone in 3D? Well, Amazing Sauce, I think you should probably learn to fly right side up before you learn to fly upside down, but I don't know. I guess I wouldn't tell you not to do it. Yeah. Ron Sanaki wants to know, what is the AGC technology in the Rush Tank Ultimate Plus? I'm so glad you asked that, Ron. And let's just, because it gives me a chance. It gives me a chance to just say something nice about the Rush Tank line of VTXs. I got to tell you guys, the Rush Tank are really solid, mid-priced, high performance. They don't have quite the feature set of something like a Unify, but if all you need is a freaking VTX, they're really solid. Very nice that they have buttons. If you don't want to set up smart audio, they are licensed smart audio, so they're actually like official if you care about that. And there's this one, which is the Rush Tank Ultimate, which mounts in a 36 millimeter. Hang on, Rush Tank. They have the Racing Edition, and then they just added the Racing Edition is like, oh, let's just do it this way. Here's the Racing Edition. This one only goes up to 500 milliwatts, unfortunately, but still pretty solid, not too big. And then they just added this one, which I'm really excited about, the Rush Tank Mini, which is a 20 millimeter board that goes up to 800 milliwatts. This is fantastic for builds that a lot of modern frames are putting a 20 millimeter stack behind the main 36 millimeter stack. So this is fantastic for a situation like that. 37 bucks, 800 milliwatts, good rated output power, good heat dissipation. It's a pretty good freaking VTX at this price. But what is AGC? That's your question. AGC stands for Automatic Gain Control. I'm familiar with AGC from the cameras, where they'll adjust the gain of the sensor as light goes up and down. The light. In terms of a VTX, what would AGC mean? Maybe it adjusts its output power dynamically to get consistent output power across the channels. I don't know. AGC stands for Automatic Gain Control. I can tell you that. Wrong Way FPV heard the Mini Rush has overheating issues. I mean, at the end of the day, Wrong Way, if you're pumping out 800 milliwatts with no airflow, you're going to overheat. That's true for any VTX that doesn't have a big heat sink on it. I mean, so don't arm at 800 milliwatts and then don't power up at 800 milliwatts and just sit there. Go fly. But I don't think it should overheat if you're flying. Let's see. Ion FPV says audio. Audio seems fine here. Yep, there we go. KCJA FPV, Trappy would not agree with that. I don't know what you mean, KCJA. The Unify overheats at 800 milliwatts if you don't have airflow. That's not like a slam on the Unify. It's just when you take 800 milliwatts and you put it in a package this freaking big, yeah, the heat's got to go somewhere. Robert Klauko, thank you for 2 CHF. I don't know what those are. Is there a way to get a GPS log from Blackbox? No, Robert, I don't think there is. The way that that's typically handled is you put the GPS coordinates in your DVR and then you you put them in your OSD and you record the DVR. Or if you're using a Taranis, you can transmit the GPS coordinates via telemetry to the Taranis, and then the Taranis can log them on the SD card. Those are 2 options. Jason says, hi, my JBV2 flight controller does not boot. It gets pretty hot on USB and VBAT power. Sounds like your JB flight controller has a short circuit on it. Jason, you should reach out to support@racedayquads.com. They do all of the warranty service on my flight controller. If you are eligible for a warranty, they will get you another one out immediately. In other words, if you bought it and it has a short and it's damaged, then they'll send you a new one. If you flew it for 10 months, crashed it into a brick wall 57 times, and then stabbed it with a soldering iron, that wouldn't be covered under warranty. So just reach out to support@racedayquads.com. Oh, Ion FPV, thank you for that. The AGC is for audio. I couldn't find that. So that actually makes more sense, Ion FPV. The audio AGC means that when the wind is blowing, it turns down the gain on the microphone. That's really great, so that you don't get a ton of noise from the wind on the microphone. Beastmaster 101 wants to know if I'm going to review the iFlight Nazgul 5. Yes, I will. It's coming in the mail. When I get it, I'll review it. And it looks pretty freaking impressive, though. I'm mostly just reviewing it because I'm already kind of convinced it's awesome, and I just want to make sure I get a review out for you guys. Sterling Youngman, I went through your Betaflight for Beginners tutorial using my Tiny Hawk S. After completing it, I lost the factory profiles. Ouch. So I re-imported the default settings. Now I can't bind. You should be able to bind, Sterling Youngman. That doesn't have anything to do with Betaflight configuration, the ability to bind. What's the... Okay, sorry. Oh, I see. The people who are shouting audio at me don't mean my live stream audio. They mean the audio gain on the Rush Tank VTX. Got it. So Sterling Youngman, I think you should reach out to Emacs and try and get your profiles back. Or you know what, Sterling Youngman, I have a Tiny Hawk S in factory condition. If you will email me, joshuabardwell@gmail.com, I will send you the configuration dump from my Tiny Hawk S. Okay, Sterling? There you go. Let's see here. Woo! Oh, we are rolling. We're rolling here. Let me get back in the live stream chat. How are we doing here? How are you doing, patrons? What channels get the best range for FPV? Simon Saucy in the Discord asked what channels get best range for FPV. In case you missed it, if you want to join my Discord server, you can do that by joining my Patreon for as little as $2 a month, or however much you think I have earned in terms of the help I've given you. Join the Patreon. You can get, you can feel good that you're supporting the work I do. And you can get to join the Discord server. You get the invite when you sign up on Patreon. And then you can sit in the Discord and have me ignore your questions. Simon Saucy says, what channels get the best range for FPV? I noticed on my Fat Shark Teleporter V5, higher raceband channels got better range. Is this a fluke or just some actual thing? Simon, usually a video transmitter will be stronger on some channels than others, and an antenna will be more sensitive on some channels than others. So there is no single channel that will give you the best range. It depends on your antenna and your video transmitter. A great tool to deal with this is something like the Immersion RC RF Power Meter, which can help you start to figure out which channels your VTX is most powerful on. The difference can be really substantial too, depending on the VTX. Let's see here. Do you need to power up your quad facing north to get the home direction working properly? Asks Super Saigon. I don't think that's right, Super Saigon. The way that Betaflight... So first of all, Betaflight GPS return to home doesn't require a compass. And that means that the GPS has to rely... that the quad has to rely on GPS data for positioning. And GPS is quite accurate at positioning, but what GPS is bad at is knowing what direction it's facing. Because if you think about it, you know you're at a certain GPS coordinate, but you don't know what direction you're facing. The way Betaflight handles this is with a parameter that the GPS unit reports called GPS velocity. I guess is it velocity? What do they call it? The gist is this. As the quad begins to move, the GPS unit can tell, based on the direction you're moving, which direction you're facing. It assumes that you're moving the direction you're facing. With a quadcopter, of course, we know that's not always true. You could roll to the side and translate sideways, but the GPS velocity would be incorrect. So if you're going to use the home direction arrow on Betaflight, first of all, you need to be moving forward. That's when the home direction will be most accurate. If you're sliding to the side or moving backwards like Cricket FPV, it's not going to be accurate. As far as facing north, I don't think that should matter because it doesn't have a compass anyway. So, yeah. Here you go. If you have a compass... Yeah, Super Saigon, if you have stopped moving... Imagine this, Super Saigon. You don't have a compass. You are flying forward, and based on the direction you're moving, the GPS is estimating what direction you're facing. So your home direction arrow is correct. Now you stop moving forward, and you rotate 90 degrees. Well, at that point, the GPS doesn't know that you've rotated. It just knows your position. And at that point, the home direction may be off. Okay. Want to get fly in the regular chat asks, JB 4-in-1 ESC with Synergy F4 flight controller. FC only powers from USB and not battery. It means the 5-volt regulator is dead, as we discussed earlier. Is there a 5-volt available on the 4-in-1? No. The JB 4-in-1 ESC does not have 5-volt output at all. So you're out of luck there. You can get an external 5-volt regulator like from Pololu or a cheap Chinese one off of Amazon or Banggood. That's no problem. Thank you, Sterling Youngman, for $2 in the super chat, just because I'm awesome. Thanks, Sterling. Gyre FPV, thanks for $10. Thank you, very generous donation. Is there much of a difference in flight characteristics when you have gyro fusion? In reference to the Talon F7 fusion board, planning to put it in a race build. Gyro FPV, think of sensor fusion as implemented on the Talon F7 fusion, as implemented on the iFlight Sussex Twin G, and as implemented first, I believe, on the SP Racing F7 or H7 Ultimate flight controllers. Think of sensor fusion as free filtering. It is filtering that gets rid of noise without adding additional delay. So in theory, your motors will run cooler, you'll be able to use higher D gains, or you'll be able to use less filtering in the Betaflight filters tab without getting hot motors. That's going to be the big difference in flight characteristics. Let me tell you, the single biggest thing I do when I first build a quad is I go in and I turn off as many of the filters as I can. Now, this is, I said this in a previous live stream, and a Betaflight developer said, whoa, don't do that on Betaflight 4.1. Okay, but on Betaflight 3.5, 7, and on Betaflight 4.0, the first thing I do is I turn off as many of the filters as I can and get rid of as much latency as I can. And the difference in flight performance is significant. If you follow along with this, you need to be careful not to smoke your motors. Because that's the other thing. If you don't have a very clean build and you turn off the filtering, you'll smoke your motors or the quad will fly to the moon. So, use this power responsibly. But if you had a flight controller with the sensor fusion and that let you turn off more of the filters, it could significantly improve the flight handling. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, yeah, Super Saigon's, yeah, okay. So Super Saigon, I'm talking about GPS direction home arrow. I was a few kilometers out, and when I turned around to go back, the arrow pointed the opposite direction. Yeah, no, that's why. Because if you don't have a compass, you can rotate all you want, and the direction will not update. It's only once you begin moving that then the GPS knows what direction it's facing. That's absolutely what happened. Nizzle Hizzle, thank you for Danish kroner, 17 Danish kroner, thank you. Arbad, thanks for $5. Because of your vids, my wife just gave me my first UAV for my birthday, an amazing Mavic 2 Pro. Well, thank you. I don't do a lot of content about... Does your wife know I do FPV content? I don't really do anything about Mavics, but okay, cool. Let's see. Hello, Reaper X FPV. Thanks for popping in, my friend. Let's see here. Do you think, thank you Slinky FPV for $5, do you think the FrSky Tyrannus X9D Plus SE is worth upgrading to? I have the OG Tyrannus. Honestly, Slinky FPV, if you have the, sorry, I'm stretching my shoulder here, guys. I did some weed whacking in the yard yesterday, and now my shoulder's really tight. Forgive me. Sitting in this chair with my hands like this really messes with my shoulders, too. I don't know. I'm old. I got to tell you, if you've got the FrSky Tyrannus X9D Plus, the OG Tyrannus, and it's working for you, I would stick with it. I still am using mine as my daily driver. What does the SE, the new X9D Plus, get you? It has a few things. It has the new Access chipset, which has some interesting features. It has an extra switch. It's cool, but I'm not sure I would jump on it, especially because I fly Crossfire. And if you fly Crossfire, you can get it working on the X9D Plus, but I don't like the fact that FrSky is intentionally trying to make it not work. I'm like, oh, so I'm just going to buy your radio and then I'm going to do a 3D printed hack mod. Why don't I just buy a radio that intentionally supports Crossfire? It's a solid radio. I'm not sure I would spend another $200 if I had a working OG Tyrannus that I liked. That's the other thing. True Style in the Discord says, these are his words, not mine, but he says, I would not recommend buying any new FrSky radios until the Access stuff is released and tested. That's not a bad point, because FrSky historically, when they release a new technology like R9, it takes a little while to get the bugs worked out. So maybe you don't want to be the beta tester. DJ Pop points out Painless 360 said Crossfire works fine on the X90 2019. I know it works, DJ Pop, but it doesn't have a JR module, does it? It has the light module, doesn't it? So you got to like have a 3D printed whatever, and you got to do some soldering, and it's just like today. And by the way, they aren't shipping the firmware with the Crossfire stuff. You have to get the OpenTX. You have to wait for the OpenTX devs to support Crossfire. So it's just like FrSky's like, you know what? If you don't want me, I don't want you. You know? I don't know. Like, what's wrong with the R9 system? Asks 661FPV. The problem with the R9 system is this. I think the biggest problem with the R9 system is that it allows you to have mismatched firmware on the receiver and the module. And I speculate that's where a lot... people who are using R9 and are happy with it, I bet that they're using the same firmware version on the module and the receivers. And people who are having random fail-safes, I bet that they're using different firmwares and they don't even know it. One of the nicest things that Crossfire does is it has over-the-air firmware updates, and it will not let you bind if you don't have the same firmware. And what it does is it just says, oh, hold on a second, and it pushes the firmware over the wireless link and updates the receiver. So like if you show up at the field and you forgot to update your receiver, Crossfire just like two minutes and it updates it and you're good to go. But it never lets you fly with mismatched firmware, and R9 does let you do that. In fact, with R9, it's not even easy to know how to know what firmware is on the receiver. It's not even easy to know. Thomas Bird Jr. just became a patron. How do I get in Discord? Thomas, when you signed up as a patron, you should have got an email or a message with a link to the Discord. That will let you join up to the Discord. And it does have a JR module bay. That is pretty slick. I guess I was wrong about that. Good to know. I mean, not like good to know that I was wrong, but good to know it does have a JR module. What's the radio? It must be the X9 Lite that I'm seeing people post pictures of. Yeah. That's the one that has to be modded. What? G Nice wants to know, is my LaForge V2 really outdated? Am I missing out on more clarity? G Nice, the LaForge hasn't had a V2? Oh wow, no, you're missing out, dude. I'm sorry. The LaForge V2 it's pretty freaking old. Yeah. Mac Primo says, F you, Josh. Why, Mac? What did I do? Let's see. Yaman says, JB, you have an X10 radio. Why don't you use it? I actually don't. I don't have an X10 radio anymore. I gave that away. It's at the end of the day, it's bigger, it's heavier, and I just was always worried about beating it up and breaking it. It was just too much. It's too much for me. Where can we get the link to the Banggood sales spreadsheet? Reza West, I posted it in the chat earlier, and I will post it to my to my channel soon. Would it be worth it to upgrade to the TBS Fusion from a LaForge Diversity? Yeah, Gyro PV. Any of the modern modules with sync reconstruction technology and frame combining technology, any of the modern modules with those technology, like TrueDX, of course, Rapid Fire, and now TBS Fusion, supposedly, any of those modules are going to give way better performance than a standard diversity module. No question. JRC says the latest R9 module firmware prevents binding to older receiver firmware. Okay, but then what, JRC? Because if it doesn't support over-the-air firmware updates, now you're out in the field and you have mismatched firmware and you're just screwed. So it has to support over-the-air firmware updates, or you're just going to, that's not good, you know? Then you're just in a situation where people don't know why it won't bind and don't know how to fix it, especially because you can't even find out what firmware version is on the FrSky receiver. Certainly not in any way I know of. So it's like, does the firmware match up? I don't know. I guess I better reflash it. Let's see here. What FrSky receiver should I get? Do they have the same range or not? Cameron, I think the FrSky RXSR receiver is the best sort of all-round. Let's see. Joe Gray is calming down. FrSky bring OTA to all modules and receivers. Damn right, Joe Gray. Damn right. I want over-the-air firmware updates on all of them. You don't just end up in the field and suddenly out of the blue have mismatched firmware versions, says Fu. That is not correct, sir. Here's how that happens. This happens to me. I update, oh, Crossfire has a new firmware. Okay, so I pull my module out and I update my module. And then I update my quads, except I forgot to update one of my quads. So now I grab that quad off the wall, don't realize I didn't update the firmware on it, and I get to the field and I'm ready to fly. Oops, it won't bind. Now, if I do not have over-the-air firmware updates, I'm just done for the day. I just can't fly. But because Crossfire has over-the-air firmware updates, all I have to do is just wait for a second while it updates the firmware, boom, and I'm good to go. That's how you end up at the field. Fu, if FrSky doesn't even tell you what firmware version is on the receiver, how can you know that your firmware is matched up? By the way. FrSky Access updates over the air. Does it, though? Timo Schmutz, stop spamming your question, sir. Timo Schmutz, stop spamming your question. It's too much. It's too much, dude. If you ask the question and I don't answer it, then you ask it again. I get it. I miss questions. But if you ask the question 15 times in a row, bang, 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 that's just spamming. That's just rude. Take it easy, dude. OTA... Alep FPV says access updates over the air. Does it, though? Does it? The very first firmware put out for RXSR and so forth did not have over-the-air firmware updates in them. So tell me, anyone out there who knows better than me, as of today, does every FrSky Access receiver support over-the-air firmware updates? Yes or no? So I could look it up, but I'm just going to let you guys tell me. I'm waiting for the answer now. While I wait for the answer. Only on OTA receivers. Bingo. Thank you, MC's Creations. Only on OTA receivers. Now, what's an OTA receiver? I don't know. Why do I have to buy a whole new piece of hardware to get the OTA firmware? So, as of today, I believe I'm correct. As of today, I believe, thank you, Cloud909. If you absolutely need me to answer your question, you can spend a couple bucks in the super chat and I will get it. Or you can just roll the dice. Or you could just freaking email me and I'll answer it after the live stream for no charge. Your call. So as of today, if I have a FrSky RXSR and I put the Access firmware on it, I do not get over-the-air firmware updates. I believe that is true. And that means that if I have mismatched firmware on my R9 module, nope. Joe Gray is mad. Hey, I'm with you, Joe. I'm mad too. Not all modules support OTA. The 2019 R9M module does not support OTA, but the R9M Lite module does. Oh, yeah? Is that true, Joe? So if you have... It's over there on the desk. I'm not going to get it, but you can't see it. Never mind. If you have the JR module form factor of the R9 module, you're not getting over-the-air firmware updates. Okay. So, yeah. So don't say, oh, Access has over-the-air firmware updates. It doesn't. Not for everybody. There you go. Tablab FPV, thank you for $2 in the super chat. Arbad, thank you for $5. What higher end UAV would you recommend for indoor, not fast racing, indoor use in New Jersey winter? I'm disabled. Hands okay, walking, retrieving is tough. Arbad, I think that for indoor freestyle, the Emax Tiny Hawk Freestyle is a fantastic choice. However, it doesn't have prop guards. You might, if you really want to make sure that you're not you're not going to have to walk and retrieve too much, you might prefer something with prop guards on it. You could look at the Beta FPV 85X or 75X. Those are some things you could look at. But the freestyle is pretty freaking good. Let's see here. Matthew Walsh says, my rapid fire antenna has one linear dipole and antenna, 2 has a Bandicoot patch. It's on a short extension, but it never has higher signal than the dipole, even at long range. Well, I guess the Bandicoot patch, I mean, first of all, Matthew Walsh, make sure you've calibrated your rapid fire module. Take the antennas off and run the calibration procedure. That could throw the RSSI off. But other than that, I mean, maybe the Bandicoot patch is not that good. I don't know. Just because it's a patch doesn't necessarily mean it's going to have higher gain than... I mean, it ought to, but maybe it doesn't. The extension could be eating up a small amount of power. MDA FPV, I will be reviewing the SkyZone Sky 030. I've been testing them a little bit. They look pretty freaking good, I got to tell you. I have not side-by-side the 030 with the HDO yet. That's the real question. Yep. Slinky FPV says he canceled. Oh wow. Ooh. Slinky FPV, thanks for $5. I'm sorry, FrSky. He canceled his order for the X90 Plus 2019. I just think there's a better, if you have a working Taranis, there's probably somewhere better to put your $200-ish than into a brand new radio. I think the Taranis X9D is a pretty solid radio, and I'm just not that super excited about pulling all my receivers out of my quads and replacing them with Access receivers. And the fact that the very first, when FrSky released Access, they said it's got over-the-air firmware updates or whatever. And I was like, oh, that's really exciting. And then they released the firmware for the pre-existing receivers like the RXSR, and it doesn't have over-the-air firmware updates. Oh, I see. I mean, we got to buy all new receivers to get that, or I don't know what you got to do. I don't. I'm just a little annoyed about it. Best radio for Crossfire, asks Sawhill FPV. Jumper T16 supports Crossfire with no modification. The original Taranis X9D is a pretty solid choice. And it sounds like the brand new Taranis X9D Plus 2019, it also supports Crossfire, but you have to download OpenTX 2.3. The FrSky firmware that it ships with doesn't support Crossfire. Steve Mann wants to know, Crossfire Micro TX or TBS Crossfire TX Lite. I would go with the Micro, Steve, because I feel like 250 milliwatts is more than enough for anybody doing 5 gigahertz video. The TX Lite does have the screen and the joystick, which some people feel is a big advantage. It also goes up to 2 watts, but who freaking cares? I don't. Burden85 in the Discord wants to know, I just got the Hype Train blasters. Are they better than the Emax Eco? Well, you got them. You may as well fly them. Right? You already bought the blasters. Are they better than the Eco? Who cares? You got the blasters. Have fun with them. The blasters have a better warranty than the Eco, that's for sure. That's true. Tumbleweed 30 reminds us that one of the limitations of the new Access radios, like the X9, the 2019 X9D, is that they don't support D8 protocol. If you have any micro bind and flies with D8 receivers in them, you're going to need an external module to bind to them. So, let's see here. Copter flights, that's an interesting question. My quad had an RSSI loss at 51 and fell out of the sky. Well, is there a limit of RSSI loss I can configure within Betaflight? Well, copter flights, I mean, you just need to keep an eye on the RSSI. I don't know, with Betaflight, I think it has an RSSI threshold where it'll start blinking the RSSI. Typically, an RSSI of around 40 or 45 is where it falls out of the sky. If yours fell out of the sky at 51, I'm kind of surprised. That's kind of high. I'm surprised you had a failsafe at that high of an RSSI. What radio in the $100 range should I buy? Asks Kantek Goodsky. I think the QX7 is probably the one to get in the $100 range, unless you intend to use Crossfire. The QX7 can't fully use Crossfire without a hardware modification that many people won't want to do. The jumper in the $100 range, I think, is the T12, which I think is pretty small for adult hands, and I'm not a big fan of it. The jumper T16 is closer to $160 and is quite good, but that's not in the $100 range. Yaman asks, sometimes my radio shouts telemetry lost, telemetry recovered like 1,000 times. I tried my best to check for the loose connections, but nope. Yaman, this is a firmware issue with the receiver and the radio. I'm very sorry to say I have no idea what to what fixes it. I would try flashing the module and the receiver to new firmware and see if that fixes it. Or just turn your volume down on your radio. So sorry. Is the FetTech ESC worth the money? Asks Bearden85. Let's look at that. Thank you. In the Discord, by the way. See, I'm paying some attention to the Discord. Is the FetTech ESC worth the money? FetTech ESC is a new ESC from the makers of KISS. It's a new high-end ESC with extremely powerful, reliable, high performance, yada, yada, yada. It's also $80, which is it's a premium price for sure, but has KISS FC pass-through. Betaflight is in development. Ouch. Well, if you fly Betaflight, don't get it because you don't want it if it doesn't have Betaflight pass-through. If you fly KISS, this could be one of the best ESCs you could get, but is it worth the money? Well, only you can decide how much $80 is worth to you. This is a hell of a good ESC, though. I mean, KISS makes great hardware and great ESCs. You just pay a premium for them, and they're mostly designed to work with KISS flight controllers. Sunny FPV, thanks for $5. My ER349 is in acro mode. It's trying to pitch back due to trim, but all the trims have been centered. Sunny FPV, look in the receiver tab. And it's not just that your trims are centered. You need to see in the receiver tab that the channels are at 1500. If the channels are not at 1500 for any reason, then that's what you got to fix. You can use sub-trim in your radio to fix that. You always want the trim switches centered, just because it shouldn't really be doing anything anyway. But if your trims are centered, but for some reason the channels are not centered at 1500, then you're not going to be able to. It's going to drift, and that's what you need to fix. Let's see. Sylphid X in the Discord. I see your question about Sawyer Hartman's YouTube video. I didn't watch that video, and if your goal is to watch the video and then cringe at it, that's not really my vibe, dude. I didn't watch it, though, so I can't really say much about it. Oh, no, I know the one you're talking about. Sawyer Hartman. Yeah, no, I'm sorry. I got it. Yeah, his video about DJI. No, I didn't Twitch. You're not. Sorry. I'm not. I mean, he is speaking to his audience. Sawyer Hartman is a big YouTuber. And he does DJI stuff, photography stuff. And he did a video about getting into FPV with the DJI FPV system. It was super high level and had a lot of info that might make somebody more technical cringe. But I loved it. I mean, you got to see that in a very positive light. He is enthusiastic about FPV. He's exposing other people to FPV. He name dropped me, and Drib, so no cringe at all. Welcome people. The first time anybody gets into the hobby, it's going to be cringy. I mean, that's just, you got to just help them get past that. Anyway. Let's see. Oh, which VTX should I get for my 5-inch quad, asks Catman. Earlier I was plugging the Rush Tank VTXs as being good value for the money. I'm a big fan of those right now. Whoop. Okay. $79.99. Oh, that's on fettech.net. It's $6. If you can get the FetTech ESC for $60, that's a fair price. fettech.net translates to $62. That's a pretty good price, to be honest. I mean, that's a premium price for an ESC, but it's not like a jaw-dropping price. Priyansh Jain, which ESC to buy under $12 to $15? Thank you for asking that, because it gives me a chance to plug my website, fpvknowitall.com, where I have the ultimate FPV shopping list, including parts that you can, all the parts I recommend. Well, no, that's not true. Not every part I recommend, but I've tried to sort of curate the list of parts to stuff that you can get and that you can rely on and help you sort of whittle down the list. Here are some good budget ESCs and some more top-of-the-line ESCs as well. So, want to spend like $35 on an ESC? This is a freaking expensive ESC, but it's a gosh darn good ESC if you want to spend that much on it. Alrighty. Thanks for that. Give me a chance to plug that. Guys, we are getting close to the end of the live stream, and I want to remind you that Aaron Ciotti, you still in the live stream, dude? Speak up, my friend. Post your link. Aaron Ciotti is going to be doing Q&A live stream. If you just tuned in at the end of mine and you're looking for more, you're hungry for more, then you can check out Aaron Ciotti's page. He is incredibly knowledgeable about micros. He knows about bigger quads too, but he knows way more about micros than I know about big quads, so I don't really talk to him much about those. But I would talk about micros a lot, and he is going to be streaming starting on the hour at 3 o'clock. I'll throw a link to his page. Before I do that, just want to say thank you guys. Thank you guys for coming out. Thanks to everybody who asked questions in the live stream. Thanks to everybody who helped answer questions other than me. I know you were out there. Dang it. Come on. YouTube. Aaron Ciotti. Ciotti FPV. I know he's probably getting ready for his live stream. Here's his chat. Thanks to everybody who contributed in the super chat and to anybody who joined up my Patreon. Thank you very much as well. I look forward to seeing you in the Discord in my next live stream. My next live stream will be Monday night tomorrow at 8 p.m. Eastern, and we'll be going there. And in the meantime, if you got questions, please feel free to reach out to me. That's what I do. I love talking to you guys on the live stream in real time, but I love getting your questions any time of day via email or Facebook Messenger are the best way to do it. So that is going to do it for this live stream. So there we go. Joe, check out Ciotti's channel where he should be starting up soon. I'll see you guys next time. Happy flying.